Welcome back to Tech Bytes. This week I want to talk with you about a new functionality that we are going to introduce in the PnP Provisioning Engine. In fact, whenever we apply a template onto a target, every now and then we need to verify if the target is okay for that template. Let me explain it better. Let's say that you have a template in which you provision term groups in taxonomy. Well, you need to have proper permissions like being the term store administrator to being able to create term groups at the tenant level. Or think about a template which will upload a package, could be for example an SPPKG file created with SharePoint framework into the app catalog. Well, again, you need to have an app catalog in the target tenant and you need to have proper permissions to upload a package into the app catalog. Right now, you have to do all of these checks manually, or you have to do all the configuration of the pre-requirements by yourself. Starting from May 2019 release of the Provisioning Engine and of PnP Site Core, we are going to introduce a CanProvision functionality which will do all of the checks for you. And we are already using it in the SharePoint provisioning service, which is still under preview right now, and where you can see the preview of this CanProvision functionality too. How does it work? Well, first of all, there is a set of rules, the CanProvision rules, that we define and that you can define by yourself if you like. They are just .NET classes. Then there is a CanProvision rule manager type, which can be used to execute all of the CanProvision checks and which will give you back a CanProvision result. The CanProvision result can give you a positive result in the CanProvision property, which is a Boolean one, or if it will give you back a false result, a CanProvision equal false result, well, you will find in the issues collection a list of issues well defined, well described, which will help you to figure out what is missing from a pre-requirements perspective. So, let me move to the demo environment and let me show you how you can use the CanProvision functionality in practice.
So let's start having a look at the SharePoint Online provisioning service, which I already covered in one of my previous Tech Bytes and which is also well covered on the PnP YouTube video channel. Well, here I have a set of templates, and for example, I want to apply the SharePoint Starter Kit template onto a target tenant in which to which I am right now connected. So if I click on the Add to Your Tenant button, I will be prompted with the page to provision this template, which requires me to satisfy some of the prerequisites, like for example, having a taxonomy properly configured with my user, which has proper admin rights in the taxonomy service, as well as having an app catalog and the permission to upload packages in the app catalog. So I can configure the basic settings of my template that I want to provision right now, and I can click on the provision button. As you can see now, we are validating the prerequisite, and here the CanProvision rules are working and are validating our target tenant against the rules that we defined for this template. Right now, as you can see, we don't have all of the requirements fulfilled, and in fact, you see, in order to provision the template, you need to be term store administrator, which I'm not. For the sake of showing you the user experience, I'm not a term store administrator. And I even have a link to see what I have to do in order to properly configure my tenant to apply this template. Of course, if I do the same thing in another template, another tenant like this one, for example, I click again on the Add to Your Tenant, I click on the Provision button as soon as the page will be ready. I will have the CanProvision rules executed, but this tenant is good to go. It does have the taxonomy with proper permissions, it does have the app catalog and the app catalog permissions, and so I will be able to directly provision my template onto the target without any further notice from the engine. As you can see, I can read what will be provisioned and I can confirm that I want to provision my template. Under the cover, this validation engine leverages the PnP Site Core library, which includes the PnP Provisioning Engine. And there we have the concept of CanProvision rule. And in fact, every CanProvision rule is made as an implementation of a base interface. And then I have different rules for site collections, or for SharePoint Online tenants, or for the whole Office 365 tenant. Each of them has a CanProvision method with different input arguments, and we have a CanProvision rule manager object, which is a static class, which you can use to see if you can provision a specific template onto a specific target, which can be a website or a tenant or a Microsoft 365 tenant. It's up to you and to what you want to do. And we already have defined few rules, like a couple of rules for the validation of the existence of an app catalog and of proper permissions for the app catalog, as well as rules for the proper configuration of the term store and the security of the term store. And we will, in the near future, add much more rules, as well as you can create your own rules and add them to the PnP Site Core library, because it is an open source solution. When you are a developer and you want to use the CanProvision functionality, you have to create a PnP Provisioning Context Object, which is a new one that we introduced with this release of the Provisioning Engine as well. And I will cover this class in one of the upcoming PSC TechByte videos. And once you have created a PnP Provisioning Context, within the context, you can simply use the CanProvision rule manager and run the CanProvision rule. And you will get back a CanProvision result, which is nothing more than an object which will give you back, as I said, the CanProvision result is an object which will give you back a Boolean CanProvision property, which will say if you can or if you cannot provision the template. As well as, if you cannot, you will get back a list of issues, which will be the information you need to understand why you cannot provision a template onto a target. We think this will be really useful to improve the quality of your provisioning solutions.
As usual, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.